treaty core coming up in the next 1 hour. The 17th BRICS Summit issues joint declaration, commits to unity, equality, cooperation and reform for peace, inclusive growth, sustainable development and a fairer global order. World leaders at BRICS Summit strongly condemn all acts of terrorism, denouncing the Pahalgam terror attack in Kashmir. On the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Brazil, Prime Minister Modi holds bilateral talks with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel. US President Trump says good chance of a hostage deal as he will hold talks with Israeli Prime Minister in Washington. Netanyahu says talks could help advance Gaza ceasefire deal. Intense search for survivors continues amid fears of more flooding in Texas. Death toll climbs to 78, 41 still missing. And in sports, women's top seed Aryna Sabalenka and men's defending champion Carlos Alcaraz survived tough sets to reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals. The BRICS leaders strongly condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and called for combating the cross-border movement of terrorists, terror financing and safe havens, even as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was in Brazil attending the summit, said supporting terrorists for political gain should be unacceptable. Leaders of BRICS countries issued a 31-page, 126 points joint declaration reaffirming their commitment to combat terrorism in all its forms, including cross-border terrorism, financing and safe havens, rejecting any association with religion, nationality or ethnicity. They emphasized zero tolerance, accountability and compliance with international law, including the UN Charter and human rights protocols. Leaders urged the swift adoption of UN's Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism and actions against UN-designated terrorists, stressing on the rejection of double standards in global counter-terrorism efforts. In their joint declaration, BRICS leaders also advocated for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations, including the UN Security Council. The BRICS leaders sought to increase the representation of developing countries in the UNSC memberships. The grouping stressed that reform of the UN Security Council would strengthen the voice of the Global South. The forum supported India and Brazil for permanent membership in the UNSC. India will be taking over the chair of BRICS next year. It was informed by Secretary Economic Relations Damu Ravi. He also said that Prime Minister Modi's visit has elevated the entire summit. The declaration adopted at the summit captured most of India's concerns.
For India's point of view, most of our concerns have been very well captured. I would like to bring to you your attention on the para 6, where there is a very strong expression for reform of the global multilateral institutions, in particular the UN and the UN Security Council, in which countries of the Global South to play an active role. And this time, that para and that formulation has been further strengthened over the Kazan's formulation, where it got reiterated, reinforced in terms of India and Brazil to play an active role in international affairs and multilateral bodies.
At BRICS Summit, Prime Minister expressed that diversity and multipolarity were valued strengths of the BRICS. Damu Ravi also reiterated Prime Minister's comments that BRICS could play an important role in shaping a multipolar world.
In the session on strengthening multilateralism, economic, financial affairs and artificial intelligence, Honorable Prime Minister expressed that diversity and multipolarity were valued strengths of the BRICS. He added that BRICS could play an important role in shaping a multipolar world. In this context, he also gave few suggestions in terms of considering setting up a science and research repository in the BRICS groups by the Global South countries to focus on supply chains of the critical minerals.
The Prime Minister reiterated that the global organizations of the 20th century lacked the capacity to deal with the challenges of the 21st century, and therefore he underscored the importance of reforming the multilateral organizations.
He reiterated that the global organizations of the 20th century lacked the capacity to deal with the challenges of the 21st century. And therefore, he underscored the importance of reforming the multilateral organizations. He called for a multipolar and inclusive world order and stated that the global governance institutions, particularly the UN Security Council, the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO, must undergo urgent reform to reflect the contemporary realities and times.
Prime Minister also underlined that the attack in Pahalgam is an onslaught on the entire humanity. He also noted that those funding, promoting and providing safe havens to terrorists must be dealt with in the harshest terms.
Honorable Prime Minister underlined that terrorism was a grave threat facing humanity. In this context, he noted that all the leaders have condemned Pahalgam terrorist attack in strongest terms. He underlined that the Pahalgam attack, terror attack, is an onslaught on the entire humanity. He also noted that those funding, promoting and providing safe havens to terrorists must be dealt with in the harshest terms.
All right, our correspondent Meghna Dev joins us from Rio de Janeiro to get us more. Meghna, we saw Prime Minister's participation at the 17th BRICS Summit. A number of issues were highlighted. The topic of terrorism did come up, Pahalgam terror attack, and also added to that expansion of multipolar organizations. Added to that, other aspects were also discussed. How do you evaluate India's participation at the 17th BRICS Summit, and for the world to see how important was this forum, was this meeting?
Obviously, Preeti, all eyes were on the summit and what the leaders will be discussing, especially in terms of consensus. Where will be the convergences and where will be the divergences is what the world was eyeing at to understand from the summit. First, we do see that there has been, complete, or we can say a unanimous condemnation in all manifestations of the terrorist attack that happened in Kashmir. So what we do see is that India has very strongly pushed in very strong words to ensure that this barbaric attack gets condemnation from all countries. And what we do also see, not only in the leaders' declaration, but when the first intervention of President Lula, he clearly mentioned about the Pahalgam terrorist attack. So we do see that, and especially words like cross-border terrorism have been used, people who are providing safe haven to terrorists, terror financing, all these words clearly indicate, there has been a strong message, Preeti, that has been sent to the neighbors with this kind of messaging, with this leader's declaration, and especially, the full paragraph, if we see, clearly mentions how how the BRICS countries are talking very strongly about countering terrorism, about terror financing, about these implications. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during his intervention at one of the sessions, clearly said that condemnation has not got to be a convenience. A condemnation should happen as a principle. He also did say that this attack was an attack on India's soul and dignity. So clearly, a unanimous condemnation in very strong words from the BRICS nations. Now, besides that, another aspect, as you said, that there has been discussions on different sectors. Definitely, very strongly, the presidency as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi did call for reforms of the UNSC. There has to be more representation on that horseshoe table. The other countries also unanimously talked about these reforms. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that there has to be, it is not going to be, now token gestures are not going to be sufficient. There has to be more representation. President Lula said that there has to be representation from Caribbean, from Latin America, from Africa. So when we are actually making policies and solutions for the region, we do not have ample representation in the UNSC for of these nations. So clearly there needs to be a place where the global south can raise its rightful voice. And this was clearly echoed when also Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that we do have change and constant change in the growing, evolving world, but the biggest institutions have not gone reforms since past 8 decades. So this speaks volumes on how strongly and how strongly the BRICS nations are pushing for reforms of the UN. So this is something that has also been clearly mentioned in the declaration. Besides, another aspect I would like to highlight here is that about the cross-border payments initiative of the BRICS. The interoperability is being talked about, and the relevant nations, their preferences are also being talked about, because what the BRICS nations are trying to do is, if there is trade in their local currencies, in the national currencies, this is going to enable ease of trade and will help the economy also get a boost within the BRICS nations. So we are talking about intra-BRICS trade in local currencies. So this is also something that has been talked about. So clearly a lot in terms of what India has achieved in terms of condemning terrorism, but also very strong convergences of priorities that Brazil had for the BRICS. And now, when India will be the upcoming chair of the BRICS, India also has similar priorities. Tomorrow, there is going to be a session on environment, COP30, and global health. And after that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be moving for the next leg of his Brazil visit, will be the state visit to Brasilia.
All right, Meghna, apart from the participation at the 17th BRICS Summit, Prime Minister also held bilateral meetings with his Malaysian counterpart, with his Vietnamese counterpart, and also the President of Cuba. Get us more on that as well. What was taken up as part of the agenda?
So, Preeti, there were two pull asides. One was with, as you said, the Vietnamese Prime Minister, and the other pull aside was with the South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa. These were pull asides. There were talks between the leaders, but there were also bilaterals. Bilateral with the Cuban President as well as the Malaysian PM Ibrahim. We see that with Cuba, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the discussions actually encapsulated the tech sector, the healthcare sector, as well as the energy sector. Now, when we actually see that both the leaders also discussed the growing acceptance of Ayurveda in Cuba, so that speaks a lot about how of where India-Cuba relations are growing, and obviously both the leaders also discussed about disaster management. So these are the sectors that have been discussed between both the leaders. Now, when we're talking about Malaysia, we know that the Malaysian Prime Minister was in India, and so the progress since then was discussed between the leaders, and also renewable sector, the IT sector, the infrastructure sector was discussed. Besides that, also what growth, what investment and trade, the growth in investment and trade can be carried out, that was also discussed between the leaders. So these were the engagements apart from what Prime Minister had for the summit.
All right, Meghna, also when we talk of Prime Minister's visit to Brasilia, state visit to Brasilia, what is to be taken up after summing up his participation at the 17th BRICS Summit? The Prime Minister will head to Brasilia for his state visit. Tell us more about it.
Yes, the state visit is going to have a lot of significance, especially when we are talking about this state visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Brazil comes after 57 years. So it is going to be extremely significant. Both the countries are hoping to sign 4 agreements. MOUs in the renewable energy sector, counter-terrorism sector, and also in the agriculture sector. Now, both the countries, Preeti, are agriculture powerhouses. So this is going to be a very important landmark visit, landmark bilateral that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be having with President Lula to also enhance cooperation in different sectors. We have been speaking to the ambassador of India to Brazil. He did tell us that obviously there are a number of areas where more cooperation can be can happen. We also spoke to businessmen who were here as a part of the India delegation. They had also come here for the BRICS and also to explore opportunities of businesses in the sector of food processing, in sector of resorts, hotels, in the sector of gems, jewelry, diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. So these are some of the sectors wherein there are potential. In fact, there are a number of Indian investors who are interested to also invest in startups in Brazil. So this is also something that can be explored with, between both the countries. While the trade surplus is on our side and the trade is growing, but there is a lot more potential. And as the businessmen here tell us, what India and Brazil have explored together is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more that can be explored between both the countries, because Brazil definitely is a very huge country. There can be more cooperation that can happen in the biofuel sector as well. So we'll have to definitely see what conversation goes on during the bilaterals, because as I said, this bilateral makes it very significant, though it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 4th visit to Brazil, but this is the first state visit in 57 years. So clearly this shows the kind of significance that this visit is going to have.
All right, Meghna, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. Earlier, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva opened the plenary session on peace and security and reform of global governance at the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro. The session, part of the BRICS Summit, focused on key global issues, including multilateral reforms, peace and security, and strengthening global governance to amplify the voice of the Global South. The Brazilian president rejected the Pahalgam attack during his address, stating that he rejects ideology of hate. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with other leaders, participated in the traditional family photo session at the 17th BRICS Summit held at the Museum of Modern Art in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro. The family photo marked a significant moment of unity and collaboration among the countries that the grouping represents. The photo showed Brazilian President Lula da Silva and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, along with leaders and representatives of 7 other member countries with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Prime Minister stated that the moment reaffirmed the leaders' commitment to closer cooperation and shared growth, as the grouping holds immense potential to shape a more inclusive and equitable global future. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with his Vietnamese counterpart Pham Minh Chinh on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Brazil. Prime Minister Modi also met Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel on the sidelines of the summit. The two leaders warmly greeted each other. Both the leaders covered a wide range of subjects. Economic relations between both the nations have a lot of potential to grow in the coming times. Equally promising are sectors like technology, healthcare and energy. The growing acceptance of Ayurveda in Cuba is surely a great thing. The leaders also discussed ways to strengthen disaster management apparatus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a bilateral meeting with his Malaysian counterpart, Anwar Ibrahim. Malaysia is vital for India, having key place in our Vision Mahasagar and Act East policy. The leaders reviewed the ground covered in the bilateral relations, including the progress made since Prime Minister Ibrahim's visit to India last year. Futuristic sectors like IT, renewable energy and infrastructure are those where bilateral ties are growing strongly. Also discussed how to improve investment and trade relations between both the nations. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met his Iranian counterpart Saeed Abbas Araghchi on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. The leaders held a discussion focused on recent regional developments. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also met Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, Juan Ramon de la Fuente, in Rio de Janeiro. The leaders had discussed further advancement of our partnership, focusing on health, digital technology and space. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also met his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, and the meeting was held on the sidelines of the 17th BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. The leaders discussed bilateral cooperation, West Asia, BRICS and the SCO. The two leaders had met earlier in Johannesburg in February this year. There, they both had discussed the ongoing progress of bilateral cooperation between India and Russia. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, US President Donald Trump mocks Elon Musk's America Party. France's Macron to visit UK as Starmer eyes reset with the EU. Zelensky and Trump discussed Russian strikes over a phone call. Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are scheduled to meet at the White House on Monday. This is Israeli Prime Minister's third visit since Trump returned to power in January. The hope for a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza is riding high, as Trump said that there was a good chance of a hostage deal ahead of Netanyahu's meet. Indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas were underway in Qatar on Sunday, which sources said ended inconclusively. Still, Trump said that the United States was working on a lot of things with Israel, including probably a permanent deal with Trump. In fact, permanent deal with Iran.
I think we're close to a deal on Gaza. We could have it this week. I think there's a good chance we have a deal with Hamas during the coming week, pertaining to quite a few of the hostages. You know, we've gotten a lot of the hostages out, but pertaining to the remaining hostages, quite a few of them will be coming out. We think we'll have that done this week.
Also, while leaving for the US, Benjamin Netanyahu believed that his discussions with US President Donald Trump on Monday would help advance talks on a Gaza hostage release and a ceasefire deal. The first session of indirect Hamas-Israel ceasefire talks in Qatar ended inconclusively, adding that the Israeli delegation did not have sufficient mandate to reach an agreement with Hamas. Netanyahu's office said in a statement that changes sought by Hamas to the ceasefire proposal were not acceptable to Israel. However, his office said the delegation would still fly to Qatar to continue efforts to secure the return of our hostages based on the Qatari proposal that Israel agreed to. Before departure, Netanyahu said that he believed he and Trump would also build on conflict with Hamas and Iran.
This is an opportunity to expand the circle of peace far beyond what we could have imagined before. We've already transformed the face of Middle East beyond recognition, And we have the opportunity and ability to change it even more and bring a great future to the state of Israel, the people of Israel, and the entire Middle East. We are working to achieve the deal that has been discussed under the conditions we have agreed to. I've sent a team to negotiate with clear instructions. I believe the conversation with President Trump can definitely help advance this outcome.
Israel has meanwhile said that it carried out a wave of strikes on the Yemeni port city of Hodeidah and other areas held by Houthi rebels early on Monday morning. In a statement, Israel said that its fighter jets had struck and destroyed terror infrastructure belonging to the Houthi terrorist regime. Among the targets were the ports of Hodeidah, Ras Isa and Salif and Ras Kante power plant. The statement further stated that the strikes were in response to the repeated attacks by the Houthi terrorist regime against the state of Israel. The attacks came around half an hour after an Israeli army spokesman warned of the strikes at the sites on social media. A day after Musk escalated his feud with Trump and announced the formation of a new U.S. political party, U.S. President Donald Trump called Elon Musk's plans to form a new political party ridiculous, launching new barbs at the tech billionaire and saying that the Musk ally he once named to lead NASA would have presented a conflict of interest given Musk's business interests in space.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Shortly after speaking about Musk, Trump posted further comments on his Truth Social platform saying, I quote, "I'm saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks." Trump in his social media comments also said that it was inappropriate to have named Musk ally Jad Isaacman as NASA administrator, considering Musk's business with the space agency. Moving on to Russia, a Ukraine conflict. U.S. President had a good call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump shared his disappointment with Russian President Vladimir Putin's call.
Well, you said you had a strategic call with Zelensky the other day. What strategy did you
I thought it was
discuss?
a good call. He's being hit very hard, as I said he would. He's being hit very hard, and I was very disappointed with my call with President Putin. I was very disappointed.
French President Emmanuel Macron is to begin a state visit to the United Kingdom on Tuesday, where he is set to address the British Parliament and co-chair a meeting on Ukraine as London seeks to strengthen its ties with Europe after Brexit. King Charles III has invited the French leader and his wife on a 3-day official visit, during which Macron is to hold joint discussions with Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the 37th Franco-British Summit on Thursday. There were simmering political tensions between Paris and London in the immediate aftermath of Brexit under the previous right-wing Conservative British government. But there has been a new warmth in the relations under the centre-left Labour government led by Starmer, and the two countries now lead European efforts to find peace for Ukraine. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro calls on the armed forces to bolster the country's air and drone defense systems, emphasizing on the use of domestic technology and support from allied nations. In the statement from President Nicolas Maduro's government, Venezuela said that it continues on the path set by its founders as a free and sovereign nation, maintaining international relations based on equality and respect while defending its people's right to peace and prosperity. The Bolivarian National Armed Forces, which pledged allegiance to Maduro, maintain close military ties with Russia, a key supplier of Sukhoi fighter jets and Kalashnikov rifles, as well as China, Turkey and Iran. Suriname's parliament backed Jennifer Simons as the South American country's first woman president on Sunday, setting the doctor and former parliamentary speaker on course to helm a nation on the cusp of a predicted oil boom. Suriname's lawmakers backed Simons as president 6 weeks after the ruling party and its top opposition nearly tied in the race for legislative seats, leading to a coalition deal to install Simons as the president. Simons' opposition National Democratic Party won 18 seats and current President Chan Santoki's Progressive Reform Party won 17 seats in the May 25th parliamentary election. Smaller parties won the remaining 16 seats. Suriname's president is elected indirectly. Following the general election, members of the National Assembly vote for the president and a candidate must secure a two-thirds majority to win the office. Greece has rescued over 500 migrants in 5 different rescue operations since Friday. On Sunday alone, more than 430 people were found drifting near Gavdos, Greece's southernmost island. They were brought safely to Agiageline, a port in Crete, and were later taken by bus to another location. That same day, 96 more migrants were rescued near Crete by EU's border agency Frontex. Many of these migrants are from the Middle East, North Africa, Egypt, Sudan and Bangladesh. There has been a big increase in sea crossings from Libya recently as people try to reach Europe in search of safety. Dengue infections are on the rise in Nepal with 1,677 cases reported over the past 6 months. The Epidemiology and Disease Control Division said that the number of cases peaked in June, signaling an urgent need for awareness and preventive action. Bagmati has the most dengue cases, while Madhesh has the fewest, possibly due to fewer Aedes mosquitoes despite the heat. Doctors warn dengue is riskier for vulnerable groups including children, pregnant and lactating women and the elderly, and urge immediate testing if symptoms like fever, nausea or muscle pain appear. Health experts warn that dengue can reoccur due to its 4 strains, stressing continued prevention even after recovery. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Delhi NCR wakes up to heavy rain, thunderstorm, orange alert issued. Amarnath Yatra, a holy journey to the cave shrine, continues. Typhoon Danas makes landfall in Taiwan, thousands evacuated. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News at a quick relook at the top stories now. The 17th BRICS Summit issues joint declaration, commits to unity, equality, cooperation and reform for peace, inclusive growth, sustainable development and a fairer global order. World leaders at BRICS Summit strongly condemn all acts of terrorism, denouncing the Pahalgam terror attack in Kashmir. On the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Brazil, Prime Minister Modi holds bilateral talks with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel. US President Trump says good chance of a hostage deal as he will hold talks with Israeli Prime Minister in Washington. Netanyahu says talks could help advance Gaza ceasefire deal. Intense search for survivors continues amid fears of more flooding in Texas. Death toll climbs to 78, 41 still missing. And in sports, women's top seed Aryna Sabalenka and men's defending champion Carlos Alcaraz survived tough tests to reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals. The Election Commission of India on Sunday announced that the initial phase of the special intensive revision of electoral rolls in Bihar has been completed, with the printing and distribution of enumeration forms nearly finished. According to the ECI press statement, 16,949,208 forms, which is 21.46% of Bihar's total enrolled electors, has been collected. Additionally, 7.25% of these forms have already been uploaded on ECI net. The Commission emphasized that the SIR has been implemented and it has been implemented smoothly at the ground level with active cooperation from voters. The electors can submit their documents anytime before July 25th. As per the instructions, draft electoral rolls that will be issued on 1st of August will contain the names of persons whose enumeration forms were received. The annual Sri Amarnath Yatra is going on smoothly in Kashmir Himalayas, giving pilgrims a memorable experience with 360-degree security grid and first-rate services in place. The number of pilgrims undertaking the Yatra spiraling up with each passing day is a clear indicator. The administration is making every effort to ensure that Yatra is hassle-free, peaceful and spiritually unforgettable pilgrimage experience. Our correspondent Shabir Dar is joining us from Srinagar. Shabir, get us the latest on the Amarnath Yatra. You tell our viewers that it is continuing. What more can you add to this? Also, explain to us, or for that matter, tell us the latest weather updates. Is the Yatra going on smoothly?
Yes, the Yatra is going on smoothly. From last 4 days, we have witnessed that, there's a huge rush and it is increasing with every day. In last 4 days, we have seen that over 70,000 pilgrims have, gone for the darshan, and the authorities are saying that the rush is increasing, from on daily basis. Yesterday was the highest, number of pilgrims who visited the cave. Around 21,000 people, went for darshan, and this morning also, around 10,000 people left from Jammu base camp towards the base camps in Kashmir. One is in Bilateral and the second is in Pahalgam. So ample arrangements of security and other arrangements like food and beverages, health facilities have been put in place. The weather too is okay. It is a bit hot, but the weather towards the cave shrine, towards these Himalayas is okay. There is no rain or something that is going to disrupt the yatra. So weather-wise, it is okay. The facilities have been kept in place. High 360-degree security apparatus is in place. Drones are being processed to service to ensure that the yatra is kept under vigil, and no untoward incident is allowed to happen during this yatra, because only effort is being made to ensure that the yatra goes smoothly and safely.
All right, Shabir, with such overwhelming response to the yatra and also the special arrangements which have been made with regard to security and safety of the pilgrims, this has boosted the confidence of the pilgrims in Jammu and Kashmir again, which in fact has, which has led to the influx of tourists back into Jammu and Kashmir after the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack. What do you witness around yourself, given the way the Amarnath Yatra is continuing smoothly and the influx of tourists back into Jammu and Kashmir? To what extent has it helped the economy of Jammu and Kashmir again?
Yeah, obviously this yatra has been, a confident booster among the tourists, like who intended to visit and who are cancelling their bookings post, April 22, the Pahalgam attack. So now the yatra and the rush that is being seen here, and these yatris are acting as the, cultural ambassadors and, tourism ambassadors for Jammu and Kashmir, because they pass on the word. The word of mouth has gone across the country. And people are, confidently coming to Kashmir, and the number of tourists besides the pilgrims has increased in, past 10 to 12 days. And Amarnath Yatra is not just a spiritual experience. It is an economic engine for the Jammu and Kashmir, because, the official estimates say that the Yatra generates over 400 to 500 crore revenue every year, because on a typical year, around 3 lakh to 4 lakh yatris visit Jammu and Kashmir, and which create a sort of revenue generation, and seasonal jobs like in the sectors like transport, in tourism, in restaurants, in tentages. So people involved in these sectors get jobs and seasonal employment. So in a way, this yatra gives boost to the economy, because if 4 lakh to 5 lakh pilgrims visit Kashmir during this yatra period, and if an individual spends only 10,000 rupees during his visit, so if it eventually translates into over 500 crore rupees,
right,
to the economy of Jammu and Kashmir. So definitely, yatra is a big boost to the economy, and it creates seasonal jobs and revenues to the Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, Shabi, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining in with those inputs. And from here, we now turn focus to some weather updates. Heavy rains drenched parts of Delhi and the entire national capital region on Monday morning, bringing much needed respite from the humidity that gripped the region over the past several days. The Met Department has forecast thunderstorms and moderate showers to continue throughout the day, accompanied by strong winds. At the same time, a red alert warning for extremely heavy rain is in place for Himachal Pradesh and Maharashtra. Several states are on IMD's orange alert, including Haryana, Punjab, Gujarat, Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand and West Bengal. After a week of creating havoc in Himachal Pradesh, the state is finally experiencing clean blue skies. However, the damage caused by the landslides and cloudbursts has affected daily life of people, especially in the Mandi district. Relief and rescue operation is still undergoing in the district. Administration is working on a war-like level to restore the roads and provide relief material and reach out to the people who are stranded in the remote areas. On Sunday morning, 2 vehicles carrying relief material were dispatched to Janjeli. The second vehicle carried 100 ration kits. Also, with the help of the Indian Army, 15 ration kits were delivered to Prakrar village via Rain Galu route. A total of 2,500 ration kits have been distributed to the affected people so far. Also, 72 people have lost their lives in the monsoon season in the state. A loss of 566.87 crore rupees has been estimated. Also, on the other hand, clear weather has helped gain momentum in relief and rehabilitation efforts. The Met Department has issued an orange alert for 8th and 9th of July, and yellow alert has been issued for 10th of July, and monsoon will weaken after 11th of July. Rescuers in Texas raced against time on Sunday to find dozens of missing people, including children, as severe flash floods in Texas have resulted in at least 78 deaths. Texas Public Safety Chief Freeman Martin warned that the death toll is expected to increase further. The authorities have confirmed that a total of 41 people are still missing. The floods occurred during the 4th of July holiday weekend, catching many off guard as months' worth of rain fell in just hours. The National Weather Service has warned of potential new flash floods due to slow-moving thunderstorms over saturated ground in central Texas. As questions grew about why warnings did not come sooner or people were not evacuated earlier in the area popular with the campers, U.S. President Trump said that the situation was a Biden setup.
Are you investigating whether some of the cuts to the federal government left key vacancies at the National Weather Service or the Emergency Coordination?
They did not. They did. I'll tell you, if you look at that what a situation that all is, and that was really the Biden setup. That was not our setup, but I wouldn't blame Biden for it either. I would just say this is a 100-year catastrophe, and it's just so horrible to watch.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has also planned to visit Texas on Friday, despite criticism over his administration's handling of weather forecasting and emergency response.
And everybody in Texas, Kristi Noem has, as you know, been there, and will continue to be there. and we're working very close with representatives from Texas, and it's a horrible thing that took place. Absolutely horrible. So we say God bless all of the people that have gone through so much, and God bless the state of Texas. It's an incredible place.
Trump has also signed a major disaster declaration, freeing up resources for Texas. Also on a social media platform, Truth Social, Trump stated that the goal is to quickly provide resources to first responders as families face a devastating tragedy with many lives lost and others still missing. Pope Leo XIV extended his heartfelt condolences to the families affected by the devastating floods in Texas, which claimed nearly 80 lives and left 41 people missing, many of them children. The Pope specifically mentioned the girls who were attending a summer camp along the Guadalupe River when the disaster struck, saying, I quote, "I would like to express sincere condolences to all the families who have lost loved ones, particularly the daughters who were at the summer camp. We pray for them." Typhoon Danis made landfall on the west coast of Taiwan late on Sunday, the Central Weather Administration said, dumping torrential rain on the island that triggered flooding and landslides. Danis was expected to sweep northwards along Taiwan's west coast overnight. Most of the nearly 3,000 evacuated from their homes lived in mountainous areas around the southern port city of Kaohsiung. At least 10 landslides were recorded and 49 areas were flooded, but the water has since receded. Taiwan is accustomed to frequent tropical storms from July to October. Intense hail and heavy rainfall triggered severe flash floods in the eastern province of Kars, causing significant damage in several rural areas. The sudden downpour, which followed 2 days of intermittent rain, struck hardest in the villages of Gersik and Oisulu, submerging homes and barns and killing livestock. The floods also damaged numerous vehicles, including cars, tractors and agricultural equipment. Emergency response teams from the Provincial Directorate of Disaster and Emergency Management, Fire Brigade units, Gendarmerie, Health Services and the Special Provincial Administration were dispatched to the affected areas, while the local authorities are continuing to monitor the situation as additional rainfall is forecast in the region. Nepal's Department of Hydrology and Meteorology has warned of heavy rainfall in parts of Gandaki, Karnali and Sudur Paschim provinces, issuing a 3-day alert. Continuous monsoon rains across Nepal have raised the risk of floods, landslides and road blockages, especially in hilly and low-lying areas. The government has placed all the 753 local bodies on standby to ensure a minimum 15-day food supply in case of transport disruption. National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority is coordinating with local governments for rescue, relief and preparedness. The public is advised to stay alert with rescue arrangements including private aviation, boats and rafts ready for emergency deployment. Three major wildfires are still active in the south and southwest of France on Sunday after a weekend marked by high temperatures and strong winds. Several homes and workers have been evacuated. Weather Service, Meteo France put a record 84 of the country's 101 departments on an orange heat wave alert from Monday until midweek. About 200 schools will be at least partially shut over the next 3 days because of the heat, the Education Ministry said. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break. Stay with us.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. And it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. Let's turn focus to sports now. We'll talk of India's victory first. Pacer Akashdeep took 10 wickets for the first time as India thrashed England by 336 runs in the second test at Edgbaston to level the series 1 each. Deep took 6 wickets for 99 runs as England were dismissed for 271 before tea on the 5th day. He had also grabbed 4 wickets in the first innings. Indian captain Shubman Gill was named player of the match for his majestic 269 in the first innings and 161 runs in the second. Faced with the daunting task of chasing 608 runs to win, England's top order crumbled. Skipper Ben Stokes and Jamie Smith steadied the ship with a 70-run partnership of 115 balls, but Smith fell for 88. Bryden Casp provided entertainment with a bat as he went after the bowling, but he was the last man out. It was also India's biggest away win by runs. They had never won at Edgbaston in 8 tests, losing 7. The third test at Lord's starts on Thursday. All right, our correspondent Narayan is joining us to get us more. Narayan, finally the jinx has been broken and it was history that was not repeated this time and India defeated England in Edgbaston. How would you evaluate and see the match?
Priti, as you mentioned, that history has been created as the first time India won a test match at Edgbaston, and previous in 8 occasions they never won. This match shows that the new generation, the next generation of Indian Test cricket has established themselves, and especially Shubman Gill, the new captain. Multiple questions were posed over him before the series has been started. A new captain, if you take a look at his average, overseas it was 25, his overall average was 35. There was lack of experience, but he removed all those, we can say that critics, all those critics, they were saying that he will not able to do well in England, his team will not able to do in England. If you take a look in the first match also, it was in totally India's control. Just it slipped from India's hand because of few mistakes. But here in the second test match, here at Edgbaston, they did not repeat those mistakes. The fielding was fantastic. If you take a look at the catches, they were exceptional. In the first match, we saw there were 9 dropped catches. If India would have taken half of them, they would have won that match also. But the performance here was exceptional, out of world, and we can say that this team has the caliber to dominate the next decade of the cricket. If you take a look in the past, in 2014 era came, a transition phase came when India was not up to the mark. Continuously at that time they lost 9 test matches, and after that it was started in Southampton and ended in Galle, and after that India in the next test match they defeated Sri Lanka and won that series, and after that India we can say that dominated the next decade of the test cricket. Here the same thing happened. India were not able to register a win in their last 9 test matches, and here that big defeat in the previous match, that is in the first test match against England at Leeds, it was a big defeat, and after that here they bounced back and came back, and a fantastic, especially the bowlers, the way Akashdeep took 10-wicket haul in the test match, and Mohammad Siraj and Akashdeep, the duo, the both had took 10 wickets, 17 wickets overall. So India knows the art of taking the 20 wickets in a test match, and also the new ball formula that India created, the new ball formula that helped India to win the test match and dominated the bat ball. If you take a look with the new ball for both the innings, they took 10 wickets with the new ball. So that was the key formula for the India, and definitely all the cricketers here are looking great, in great shape. Today is the MS Dhoni's birthday also. He came from a very small town in Ranchi and dominated the cricket for a decade.
All right.
If you take a look, this team also, here are the many cricketers from the very small town. Akashdeep from the Samastipur.
Yes.
And our captain is from the Fazilka Abhor. And if you take a look, Siraj, he too from the small town in Hyderabad. So an era has been started, and hoping that India is going to dominate the next decade and the next test match too, and where in the Lords they will go for a win and will try to make a dominance in this series.
All right, on that optimism, Narayan will end this conversation here. Thank you for joining in. And from cricket, we turn focus to tennis. Defending champion Carlos Alcaraz found his best form after a shaky start to beat Andrei Rublev and reach the Wimbledon quarterfinal. The Spaniard, hunting a third straight title at the All England Club, won 6-7, 6-3, 6-4, 6-4. After losing the first set, Alcaraz turned the match around in style, producing some of his best tennis. He will next face Cameron Norrie, who is the last British player standing at Wimbledon after beating Chile's Nicolas Jarry in 5 grueling sets. While women's world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka is yet to drop a set at the All England Club, but was given a tough workout by Elise Martins. Also, the Belarusian came through 6-4, 7-6 against her former doubles partner to reach the quarter-finals and set up a clash against Laura Siegemund. In another match, Amanda Anisimova ended Linda Noskova's run with a 6-2, 5-7, 6-4 victory to reach the quarter-finals. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.